In this one, I'm going to cut all the 1/4 inch plywood for the backs. I'm not going to put them on until after I get the finish on the face frames and reattach the face frames, but I'll cut them, label them, and set them aside. In the middle of all this, the doors arrive. And this is probably a good time to mention that I don't build the doors for these cabinet projects I do. I buy them. And I try to order them as soon as I can because it can take up to a couple of weeks to get them. And that usually works out pretty well because I've got everything else to work on. So anytime I do one of these projects, I look at them as having 3 big parts: the doors, the finish, and everything else. So if I focus on everything else and hire a professional to do the doors and the finish, things usually go pretty smoothly. On this one, I didn't have anyone to do the finish, so that's the reason for the DIY style polyurethane paint job, but it is what it is. I cut the rest of the double-sided plywood for the shelving and drill all the shelf pin holes in this one as well. Now I'm going to cover up these pocket screws with some rips of 1/4 inch plywood. These are 2 1/4 inch rips. Just enough to cover those pocket screws. I'm not going to attach them right now. I'm just going to temporarily tape them on there and start cutting up the backs for all the rest of the cabinets. Greg showed up with the doors. It's always exciting to get the doors. Got to check them, make sure they're the right size. Perfect. This is the 1/4 inch plywood that I need to put on the 2 sides where you'll see the edge of the cabinets. Those are the toe kicks. The shelf face frame I forgot to build earlier. It's got some long pieces. I was just barely able to fit them in the shop by taking the pocket hole jig off of the cart and putting it on the floor. I've actually made some modifications to the pocket hole station. Now I can do any length I want. I've got no limitations on the length. Putting a little edge banding on these handrails. And go ahead and finish putting this shelf together, covering up all the pocket screws. And these are the backs.
This is all my shelving material. It's all double-sided. Going for the maximum cut capacity here, 82 inches. Can your saw do this?
Extra crispy.
I like to tape all of this double-sided stuff on the crosscuts. Grab the track saw. The track saw is a savior tool. It's like a superhero. I should put a cape on my track saw. Squaring up all the edges on these shelves. Knocking off the fuzzies. And that takes care of the shelves. Now I'm drilling out for the shelf pins. I'm using 5mm shelf pins. I have changed my method since this particular build. I no longer use this jig that goes inside the built cabinets. I started making all of the holes while the piece was not put together, before it's put together. And that's working out a lot better. It's not that this way doesn't work, it's just doing it before they're put together works better. And make sure that they're perfect every time. There's a little bit of squaring that happens at the bottom when I'm putting this jig in here. You just have to be very careful that the bottom of the cabinet is perfectly square.
We've almost made it to the middle, and you're doing great!